From Governor's Comedy Club in Levittown, this is Sports Bash presented by TicketBash.com. TicketBash.com, where memories are made affordable and where you'll never pay a service fee. Sports Bash is also presented by the Ryan Anthony Head Start Fund, a group of like-minded individuals trying to raise awareness to our future generations of all possibilities of success other than just college. For more information, visit www.lookwhomadeit.org. Sports Bash is brought to you by the Embassy Diner, located at 4280 Hempstead Turnpike in Bethpage. Every customer is considered family at the Embassy Diner. Mention Sports Bash and get a free dessert with your meal. And by the Marty Lyons Foundation, the official charity of Sports Bash Media. For more information, go to martylyonsfoundation.org. Well, hi again, everyone. Happy Wednesday. Yeah, it's weird to say. Happy Wednesday here on the show. I'm Peter Schwartz, 516-465-3990, the number to call. Make sure you're subscribing to Govs Comedy Club podcast and Sports Bash Media on YouTube and following on Facebook and Instagram. Also, follow Sports Bash Media on X, Instagram, and Facebook. Again, we are with you live here on this Wednesday. No show tomorrow on Thursday. Tony Walker, my producer and the host of the Knock 'Em Dead Comedy Show, has filed a protest. He does not want us to do a show tomorrow, so he is locking the doors. And he said, well, if you want to come on Wednesday, you can come on Wednesday. So we decided to take him up on his offer. We won't be here tomorrow, so we hope you'll enjoy the show on this Wednesday. And if somebody didn't get the memo that we were on tomorrow and they tune in tomorrow, they could just watch today's show tomorrow. And a lot of people watch the show on tape delay anyway, so at the end of the day, it probably doesn't amount to a hill of beans, but we're glad if you joined us live on this. It's getting warm outside again. Very warm Wednesday afternoon. Coming up on the show, we'll talk some hockey. Adam Kimmelman from NHL.com to talk about the Islanders holding the first pick in the NHL draft. Amazing. I was with my son Jared at the Knicks watch party Monday night at the Garden watching the Knicks beat the Celtics, and my phone starts blowing up. Like, the Islanders got the first pick in the draft. They won the lottery. Like, oh my God. They had a 3.5% chance of doing that. They win it, and they're going to have the first pick in the draft in June. We'll talk to Adam Kimmelman from NHL.com about that. We're also going to play Stump the Wiz a little bit later in the show, and we'll have This Week in Sports History. But right now, it is time to talk about the New York Knicks. Oh, all right. It's okay. We could just sing it ourselves then. It's okay, Tony. Calm down. Relax. Do you want me to do that over again?
In 2 seconds, yeah.
Want to do it again? We could do it. Listen, it's YouTube. It's Facebook Live. It's okay, Anthony. We'll hold for another minute or so. I go back with him a long time. We can do this introduction all over again. You just let me know when the song is queued up. You see that now? Just a little inside broadcasting, and Anthony will be able to share you with this too about horror stories of dealing with certain hosts. A lot of hosts would be so pissed off right now that this didn't work. If you don't know me by now, and Wiz has been with me for a while, and I've been with Tony now for a little bit, everyone knows I may be 6'4" and pounds, but like I'm a teddy bear. Like, fine, these things happen. It's live. I get it. Tony's having lunch. Wiz is playing with his Dragons bracelets over there. It's a cast of thousands. It's fine. Are we ready to go now?
We're ready to go.
All right.
Yes.
So, coming up on the show, we're going to be joined by... I was not ready for that yet. I'm going to tee it up. Relax.
Well, there's talking before the song starts. So that's I'm trying to...
No, well...
Yeah, now it's on. Okay.
No, just go back to the beginning.
Right. Yes.
Right?
Got it.
All right, here we go. I'll be joined by Adam Kimmelman from NHL.com to talk about the Islanders holding the first pick in the NHL draft. We'll also play Stump the Wiz, and we'll have This Week in Sports History. But first, it is now time to talk about the New York Knicks.
We are the New York Knicks. We are the New York Knicks. We are the New York Knicks. We are the New York Knicks. Say go New York, go New York, go.
There we go. Go New York, go New York, go. What a moment on Monday night for the Knicks and the organization, their fans, with that stunning win over the Boston Celtics in Game 1 of the Eastern Conference semifinals. I had a blast with my son watching it at the Garden on the big screen with probably about 8,000 or 9,000 other Knicks fans. The whole lower bowl was sold out. It was great. Game 2 is tonight. And you know, when I want to talk about the Knicks, there's only one guy I want to talk about. We worked together many, many years ago at ESPN Radio, and we have maintained a great friendship. And he is, I'm going to tell you right now, and he's going to say I'm crazy, he has replaced Spike Lee as the biggest Knicks fan on the planet. There's no question about it, and I'll explain that in a second. I want to welcome to the show Knicks event host and Knicks superfan, my good friend, Anthony Donahue. Anthony, it's Peter. How are you, sir?
Peter, what's going on, my man? Thank you so much for the nice intro. That was extremely, extremely kind of you.
Well, we had to do it twice, but it was okay. We got the music. We got the most important element there, the Go New York, Go. And well, first, let me start with the whole Spike Lee thing. Spike Lee is a fraud. He goes to the Met Gala the other night instead of either watching the Knicks game or going to Boston like you did for Game 1. So in my mind, you are the number one Knicks fan on the planet.
But that does mean a lot. I've never been invited to the Met Gala, so I don't know what that means if you were invited and you skipped it. But I don't think Spike's a fraud. I'm sure, I said, if I ever get invited to the Met Gala and there's a Knicks playoff game, we know where I'm going to be. That's an easy answer.
Right, absolutely.
Maybe, but I was shocked. I was actually kind of disappointed. I'm not in Boston. I'm by the court before the game, and I actually was looking around. I'm like, where is Spike? And then I got a text from a friend. They're like, hey, Spike's at the Met Gala. I'm like, Spike's at the Met Gala? It's not like we're playing the Celtics.
Yeah.
I'm like, Spike's got to be. I was shocked he wasn't there. Absolutely shocked.
And the only thing for me personally, it would be like the Jets in the AFC Championship game or a playoff game, or the Islanders, playing for a conference championship or playing the Stanley Cup. I'm telling you right now, anybody, I'm invited to some big gala party. I'm not going. I'm not.
Yeah,
I'm not missing out on my team having a chance to move on in a playoff round. So you obviously, again, I know we're saying it in jest a little bit, but in my mind, you have surpassed Spike Lee as being the number one Knicks fan.
Well, you're not the first to say that. In fact, many people have said that, so it definitely means a lot. It's all heart for me. It's basically been my life since fourth grade is when I became obsessed, which was the 92-93 season. And being there Monday night was one of the top 3 to 4 games I've ever been at in my life, and especially getting to be in Boston for it was, I can't even explain how it felt. And just the way the game went, it was just absolutely incredible.
I have to ask you, Anthony, because when fans from New York go on the road to other rival markets, like whether it's Boston or Philadelphia or whatever it might be, there's always that potential for the visiting fan to get, verbally abused by the home fans. Did you have any issues at all in Boston on Monday night?
No, I didn't. I was sitting by the Knicks, close to the Knicks bench, so about 15 rows to the Knicks bench in the corner. But my section was filled with Celtic fans, but they were regular people. So
right.
They weren't, there was no abusing going on. Also, when you're sitting close to the court, you're probably not going to get people that are 10 beers deep, for example. But, there was even some fun banter here and there. I remember before the final play in regulation, a Celtic fan turned to me. He's like, let me guess, ISO Jalen coming up? And I said, this is probably a fair guess. Obviously, both shocked to miss that layup.
Yeah.
But but after the game, there was a lot of shenanigans going on. I would say, I guess I am older now, so with way younger fans. And like I said, most likely extremely drunk. And all I had before the game was a little meal and a shot of espresso. So I'm not drinking 10 beers at the game. But and just for the record, Peter, I actually hate to see that stuff on both sides.
Me too.
You should never. The friendly banter is fine, but there should never actually be fist fighting over your team. I love the Knicks more than life itself. I'm not fight for my fist. Are you kidding me? What are we doing? That's for all teams around the country when you see fans doing that. But again, that's usually most likely alcohol related.
Yeah,
but it was, and there was a lot of Knicks fans there, but not like Philadelphia last year.
Oh yeah,
I would say it was maybe,
you guys took over Wells Fargo Center last year.
No, that was something I've never seen before. But there was a good amount of Knicks fans on Monday. And tonight I'll be outside the Garden watching the game at the viewing party, which should be a lot of fun. And thinking about tonight's game, obviously I want to win. I want to win every game. But even if rare I ever say this, even if we lose tonight, I'm waking up tomorrow.
I think we lost. We lost reception with Anthony. Anthony, you still there? I think we lost Anthony. It sounded like the cell phone a little bit. All right, so we'll hold it. Hopefully he'll come back. Let's give him one more shot. Anthony, you still there? Why don't we? Anthony, you back?
I hear you. I never left.
Oh no, we for a while we lost you there for a second. We couldn't hear you. So I think we lost you. You said you're going to be at the viewing party tonight.
Oh yeah, I didn't say much. I said I'll be at the viewing party tonight, and I said it's rare I ever say this. Even if the Knicks lose tonight, I'm waking up tomorrow with a big smile on my face, knowing that we're going to be at the very least tied at 1. Back at the Garden for Game 3. I mean, that is going to be incredible. But hey, maybe we do pull off the impossible and be back at the Garden up 2-0.
Yeah, I see. I don't ever, with all, I mean, you can go, yes, I get it. So the at worst, the Garden is rocking on Saturday for Game 3 at 1-1. But I think when you steal Game 1, I think you have to try and put your foot down on the throats of the Celtics tonight because you saw what happened with the Pacers and the Cavaliers. The Pacers went in there and stole both games, and now they're in the driver's seat. So if I'm the Knicks, I'm not saying they would ever throw the game away, but I think you got to pull out all the stops to try and win another one here tonight.
Well, I 100% agree. And if we win tonight, I can't even imagine what I'd feel after the game, what I'd feel on Saturday. But, you know how it is, Peter, when you don't have ice home field advantage, the goal is always to get one. But I definitely agree, too. Put the pedal to the metal. And, God, if you could get both in Boston, that would be I can honestly say I can't even imagine that. But here we are. We got a chance.
Absolutely. Are they doing the party inside the Garden, too, like they did on Monday, or is it just outside?
No, tonight is just outside.
So there must be an event in the Garden tonight. That's why they're not doing it, right?
Yeah, maybe there's a Billy Joel concert or something.
Well, not there anymore. He ended that residency. But I'll tell you, I want to go back before we talk more about tonight. I want to go back to Game 1 on the subject of viewing parties. I think I told you this in a text message. I had such a great time with my son on Monday night. We were there, and the whole lower bowl was sold out. I guess there must be like 8,000 or 9,000 seats in the lower bowl there at the Garden. And they make you feel like you're at the game at one of those things because they had the Knicks.
They do a great job.
The Knicks City dancers are there. Like during the timeouts, you're watching the game on the big screen, and they go to a timeout, and they're doing the T-shirt toss, and the dancers are out there, and they're doing the elements they do up on the screen. The Knick basketball shuffle. I got to tell you something. If they do that again during the course of the playoffs, I would go do that again in 2 seconds. They do an amazing job with that.
No, the Knicks and Rangers have always done an incredible job when it comes.
The hell with the Rangers. The hell with the Rangers.
Well, but the same organization. They do a great job when it comes to. I remember one of my favorite viewing parties I ever went to. Unfortunately, the Rangers lost. It was in 2014, Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Finals.
Yeah.
They had all of Bryant Park. Like that.
Oh
was
yeah.
Awesome. So they do a great job when it comes to events like that.
No question. So as far as the game went on Monday, it was, as you could imagine, you were there in Boston. What a roller coaster ride of emotions because like early on in the first quarter, the Knicks are right there. They got a couple of point lead. They fall behind a couple points. They're right there, and things got away from them in the second quarter, early in the third, before they mount the comeback. When you look back at the game on Monday, how do you sum up the Knicks' effort and their persistence and their heart throughout the 48 minutes and then into overtime?
Well, I think the effort was there the whole game. I thought in the end of the second quarter, early in the third quarter, the Celtics got hot from deep, which they do all the time. We were making some bad passes. We were giving up a ton of offensive rebounding. So there's some effort there where maybe we didn't have. I thought Karl Anthony Towns had a terrible game. He had a lot of turnovers, and the Celtics just kept hitting shots. And like I said, we were giving up so many offensive rebounds, and then the lead ballooned to 20 points. And I've been going to Knicks games for 31 years. I've only left maybe like 5 games early. So when the lead got to 20, I actually turned to my girlfriend Alicia and I said, "Listen, if it gets to 30, we may consider leaving early." And you know what I mean? And all of a sudden it got to 17 and 15 and 12. And then when it got under 10, I'm like, whoa. And even when it got to like 2 and 3, I couldn't believe what was happening. And that building, again, there wasn't that many Knicks fans there, so that building was absolutely silent. Peter, it was incredible.
Mm-hmm.
And then we take the 6-point lead, and then they score 7 straight points and take a 1-point lead. Jalen Brunson hits 3 3-pointers. OG Anunoby was hot throughout the whole game. Mikal Bridges hits a big 3. And then, of course, the final play of the game when they inbound the ball, they still have 3 seconds left, and Mikal Bridges just rips the ball from Jaylen Brown. Are you kidding me?
That was amazing.
What a storybook night in Boston for the New York Knicks and their fans.
Mikal Bridges, Anthony, I'm talking to Anthony Donahue, super Knicks fan, and an event host for Knick games at the Garden, is joining us here on Sports Bash. With Bridges making that defensive play, and you watched this a lot closer than a lot of other people, but Bridges, for the most part during the year, got a bad rap. Was constantly getting hit for his defense. A lot of people who cover the team, fans, all getting on him all season long for the way he plays defense. But I think in the playoffs, man, he is, for whatever reason, he's turned it up, and he made a great play there to seal that victory. Does he get a bad rap for his defensive play? Too much of a bad rap?
I mean, also, he's coming in this season. They obviously traded the 5 draft picks, so that probably adds a little more pressure. But he's been great in the playoffs when it comes to his defense. On offense, he's showed glimpses, but he had the big tip-in in Game 6 in Detroit. He had the big play on Monday night in Boston, so he's definitely played way better. I think offensively it's been a little bit of a struggle with him because there is so much ISO Jalen Brunson, so they still need to do a better job of getting guys like Mikal Bridges, Karl-Anthony Towns, and OG Anunoby more shots. But I also understand, as Jalen Brunson is like your go-to guy, and sometimes it's like Teen Wolf, Michael J. Fox in the 80s, and it works. Sometimes it works, but I think early in the game they do a better job of getting everybody the ball, and then if it's close at the end, like I always say, just go full Teen Wolf. Go full Teen Wolf. I am totally okay with that.
No question about it. We turn our attention to tonight, and look, OG is OG, Jalen is Jalen. Those guys have done an amazing job, but you mentioned Karl-Anthony Towns before, and he has been very, very underwhelming in the playoffs so far. And, when you look at the Celtics being banged up and maybe being a little shell-shocked after Game 1, for the Knicks tonight, in my opinion, Karl-Anthony Towns has to start producing a little bit more. I know he had a big tip in and the other night and made a couple plays in overtime, but for the most part, this guy has to, without question, get his act together for the Knicks to really have a legitimate chance to win this series.
Yeah, the best we've seen from Karl-Anthony Towns so far in the playoffs has been the end of Game 4 in Detroit, where he was absolutely incredible, hitting those big threes. He had the classic Patrick Ewing turnaround fadeaway. I mean, are you kidding me? But he's got to be better. He's got to be more aggressive. I mean, there's times when they have Drew Holiday on him. And don't get me wrong, Drew Holiday is a great defender, but Drew Holiday is 6'4". Karl-Anthony Towns is like 7'10". You know what I'm saying? Like, you got to take him in the post a little bit. But yes, Peter, I agree. Karl-Anthony Towns has to be better. I do think he will. Maybe they can run a couple plays for him. I'd like to see more of that pick and roll or pick and pop with Jalen Brunson and Karl-Anthony Towns. They don't run it as much as I think they should. But also, I'm not the coach. I love Tom Thibodeau, so I'm not going to be like,
I heard, Anthony, you might be on the short list if Tibbs gets fired.
I don't know, man. I don't think Tibbs is going anywhere. I really don't.
Yeah.
Unless like they would, lose the next 4 games by 80 points. I don't think Tibbs is going anywhere.
One last thing, Anthony, before I let you go, and obviously we're all going to be rooting. Well, I hope all of us, everybody in the room here, and most Knicks fans obviously will be in front of their TVs tonight for Game 2, as we hope the Knicks can go up 2-0. But before I let you go, I understand there is a new Knicks fan coming very soon, right?
Yes, that is correct. The new Knicks fan will be born around opening night. So I have not missed a Knicks opening night at the Garden since November 2nd, 1999, versus Bobby Sora and the Cleveland Cavaliers. That was the last opening night I was not at, and Alicia's due date is around opening night. So very exciting, but 25 years is in jeopardy, as of course I would not go to opening night if she was giving birth that day.
Have you tried sending any messages to the new arrival to pay attention to the internet or something like that? Take a look inside there and make sure that you let Dad get to that opening night in case if it's
Yeah,
possible.
listen, all streaks do come to an end, but she could give birth the week before, or the week after. So, we shall see. But we're going to find out the gender on Sunday. I'm actually going to pick up the envelope in a few minutes at the doctor. I feel like when you had your kids, they probably weren't doing all these crazy gender reveals. So on
I don't
Sunday,
remember. No, but we
now
waited.
it's
But our plan was to wait anyway. We did not find out until my
wow.
wife gave birth.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, not a lot of surprises
thinking-
left. Not a lot of surprises left in life. We just wanted to be surprised.
Hey, listen, I had to say, I'm picking up an envelope today at the doctor, and then I'm shooting a basketball in the hoop at her parents' house on Sunday, and the ball will, hopefully I swish it, and when the ball hits the ground, it will blow up, and then the color of a boy or girl will come out.
Oh, that's going to be great. Make sure you post that on social media.
I will. I mean, Nick's already given me some gear already, so that'll be fit for a boy or a girl.
You know what's funny, Anthony? Because we were both working at ESPN Radio at the time that my wife Cheryl gave birth to our first son Bradley, and the Knicks sent a whole gift box of Knicks stuff
that's awesome.
to Bradley. Yeah, so yeah, they're great with that. Hey, congratulations on all your success. Let's hope the Knicks go up 2 games to none tonight. Mazel tov to you and your girlfriend on the impending arrival, and we'll talk again soon.
Thank you very much, Peter. Go Knicks, and have a great day.
You got it. Anthony Donahue from just the biggest Knicks super fan that I know on this planet, does a great job hosting events at Madison Square Garden. I'm going to, like I did the other day, because, sometimes these things happen where you run a little bit late with a segment. We're going to blow through the first commercial break. But before I do that, let me tell you the segment of Sports Bash is presented by the Ryan Anthony Head Start Fund, the group of like-minded individuals trying to raise awareness to our future generations of all possibilities of success other than just college. For more information, visit www.lookwhomadeit.org. Well, on Monday night, while the Knicks were beating the Celtics, the NHL held their draft lottery. The Islanders went into the draft lottery with a 3.5% chance of winning the lottery and getting the first overall pick. Well, luck was on the Islanders' side, as we're about to take a look at.
5 seconds away from the moment of truth. And here it comes.
Draw. The fourth ball is number 13.
Holy shnikes. Let's make it official, Bill Daly. Out of nowhere, from about center ice,
The winner of the 2025 NHL Draft Lottery and the first overall selection in the 2025 Upper Deck NHL Draft belongs to the New York Islanders.
How about that? If we only had a chance to win the actual lottery with a 3.5% chance, and you win the whole ball of wax and the first pick in the draft, unbelievable. 5th time in Islanders history, they will have the first pick in the NHL draft. And on Zoom with us right now to talk about the Islanders getting the first pick, we'll talk about some other hockey things as well from NHL.com, Adam Kimmelman. Adam, it's Peter. How are you?
I'm good. How are you guys doing?
Doing great. Thanks for spending some of your Wednesday with us. So let me start here. I mean, this is what great moments in all of sports are made of. The Islanders come into the lottery with only a 3.5% chance of winning the lottery. And I'm still trying to figure out, I'm not that smart, Adam. So I especially with all these complicated math algorithms that Gary Bettman and Bill Daly were using the other night. So I'm still not sure how they actually wound up winning the draft lottery. But what was your reaction to the Islanders coming out of nowhere to get the number 1 overall pick?
Well, I think having the second to worst odds of winning number 1, because teams can only move up 10 spots, it's a huge bonus for them and what they're kind of going to try to build here. It makes that open general manager job a heck of a lot more appealing now, knowing that you're walking into a team that has the number 1 pick in the draft and what could potentially be available for them.
So when you look at the Islanders' situation, and they come in, I mean, there's no way to prepare. I mean, you do your draft board and everything like that, but all of a sudden that whoever is still left in the Islanders hockey operations, and you mentioned they're going to hire a new GM, president of hockey operations, but man, oh man, out of nowhere, you're starting to look at, players a little further down your board and doing your homework. And then all of a sudden you get this amazing gift. It's not even a holiday. And now what does that do to a hockey front office when all of a sudden you're going from maybe picking, 10th, 11th, or 12th, and now all of a sudden you're in possession of the first pick in the draft?
Well, it certainly changes the calculus, right? And it gives you the full scope of everyone and everything that's available. And it allows you to go really any direction you want to go, whether do you want to take the defenseman, do you want to take a center? You can identify your greatest weakness or what you feel your franchise's greatest weakness is, not just today, but 2 and 3 and 4 years down the line. And you have your number one in line at the buffet to get whatever the tastiest, most appealing food is there for you. And whether that's the defenseman, Matthew Schaefer, whether that's the center, Michael Misa, whether that's the Long Island native center, James Hagens, or someone else that you feel that your scouting staff feels is the best player available, he's just sitting there waiting for you to walk up to that podium or to call his name number one at the draft.
It's interesting, Adam. The last time the Islanders had the first overall pick in the draft, it was 2009, and they took John Tavares. And while he was the consensus number one pick, and I remember this back then, there were a lot of people saying that the Islanders, that, Tavares was getting all this hype and everything like that, but the Islanders really should have gone after Victor Hedman, who wound up in the middle, getting this unbelievable career with the Tampa Bay Lightning. So fast forward now to this year, and as you mentioned, Matthew Schaefer is there, and NHL Central Scouting has him listed as the number one overall prospect at this moment in the latest ranking. So if you're the Islanders all these years later, and your defensive side of the ice took a big hit with a lot of injuries this year, and there's a lot of question marks, it almost speaks so loudly to the fact that it would be a no-brainer for the Islanders to take Schaefer, the defenseman from Erie.
Yeah, that's, we had myself and my colleague, Mike Morial, we published our post-lottery mock drafts yesterday. You can find them on NHL.com, but we're both in agreement that Matthew Schaefer is the best player available in this draft. And if it's me sitting in that room making the call for the New York Islanders, Matthew Schaefer will be the first name I call. He was limited to 20 some odd games this year because of injury and illness. If you count, what he did with Erie in the Ontario League and the game in a third he played at the World Juniors. But you look at the size, you look at the skill, you look at the skating. He is an all situations player, an all situation defenseman who projects to be a top pair guy. He can quarterback your power play. He can play on your penalty kill. I remember at the USA CHL Top Prospects Challenge back in November, he somehow managed to lose both a stick and one glove and was still blocking shots and did it effectively and did it smoothly. He's the best skater in this year's draft. I don't know who would be second, but Schaefer far and away to me is the best skater. And you look at his age, he won't turn 18 until September. So you're talking about a player who already has come this far in his development, and he's 6'2", and he's 180 pounds right now. He's going to continue to get bigger. He's going to continue to get stronger because he's got so much more of a runway for development compared to players in this year's draft class. To me, I know there's going to be some local pull for James Hagens. Mm-hmm. I believe he's from Hauppauge.
Hauppauge, yep.
But at a certain point, you got to decide what's best for your team, not, what's maybe the most popular decision among the section of your fan base. To me, it's Matthew Schaefer, no question.
Is Schaefer NHL ready right now? The Islanders take him first overall in June. Is he on the ice opening night in October?
Again, this is just my opinion, but I would say no. I would say because of the injuries, because of the illness, he missed the first 7 or 8 or 9 games of the season because he was recovering from mono. He didn't play after December 30th because of the broken collarbone. You want to see him play a full season in the Ontario League and just go and dominate because he's got that ability to dominate at that level. If you bring him to the NHL now and you play him the way you think he's going to be 5 years from now, where you play him 22, 23 minutes a night, I think you're setting him up for failure almost. If you wanted to bring him in and say play him 17 minutes a night and have him quarterback your power play, maybe. But if it's me, I want him to go back, play a full healthy season in junior, 68 games, help his team win, help his team in the Ontario League playoffs, maybe get to a World Cup, another full run at World Juniors where he can dominate at that level. Then you bring him to the NHL as a 19-year-old. I think that, to me, that's the best route to give him the maximum amount of success. So do you have to wait a season, have a little bit of patience? Yes, but I think the reward is an elite level defenseman who I've heard compared to Zach Werenski in Columbus, who's a Norris Trophy candidate this season, Cale Makar in Colorado. Those are some of the comparables that we're talking about as a 17, not yet 18-year-old player. So, maybe you sacrifice one season for some outstanding, 10, 12 years beyond that.
Of course, and we're talking to Adam Kimmelman from NHL.com, the Islanders with the first pick in the NHL draft after winning the draft lottery. Of course, we can sit here and talk till the cows come home, but we don't know who the Islanders' main decision maker is going to be because they are currently in the market for a new president and general manager. And so it'll depend on who they hire as to which direction they'll go in. If they choose to go for someone who's more NHL ready, and if they choose to go forward instead of defensemen, size up Michael Misa and the Long Island product James Hagens. What's the latest scouting report on both of them, if that should be the direction the Islanders go in?
Well, I think what makes both those guys special is they're versatile enough to play center or on the wing. They have experience playing both. Misa was a winger last season with Saginaw. This season, they moved him into the middle. I think he's probably more of a natural center. And when they moved him to center, plus with the fact that he's 18 years old now, he led all CHL players, and that includes the Ontario League, the Quebec League, and the Western League. He led everybody in scoring with 134 points in 65 games. That's a pretty fantastic amount, and I believe it's the most by an under 18 player in the Ontario League since John Tavares did it as a 17-year-old, the year before his draft year. So that's kind of the comparable we're looking at. He's got an incredible head for the game. He's not a speed burner, but he's a guy who's so smart and so skilled that he's always in the right position every shift. He's a committed 200-foot player. Still needs to get a little bit bigger, a little bit stronger, as all of these guys do because they're only 18 years old. But I think he projects to be a top two-line center who can be a guy you build your franchise around. As far as James Hagens goes, as an 18-year-old college freshman, he was a point-a-game player. He was the center on arguably the top line in college hockey with two guys who were playing in the NHL by the end of the season in Gabe Perreault and Ryan Leonard, one of whom is still playing in the Stanley Cup playoffs right now in Leonard. He was the number one center on the gold medal winning team at the World Junior Championship. And he tied for the team lead in scoring with 5 goals as the youngest player on that team. James Hagens projects to be, much like Misa, a top 6 forward, a top 2-line center, a guy who you can build your team around. He's got great skater, great offensive mind for the game. Again, you worry a little bit size through the middle with him because he's only 5'10", but the skill, I think, at the end of the day is going to win out. I don't think there's a bad choice, quite honestly, between either one of those players.
So the Islanders sitting there at 1, I mean, there could be a team below them that, values one of those 3 above the other 2. So the Islanders, and this goes back to being, in the driver's seat here, they really are in a good shape here because they could actually, take offers for that first round pick. If they're fine with all 3 of those guys, and particularly Hagens, who's getting a lot of buzz here on Long Island the last couple of days, the Islanders could be in a really good position here because if they can get one of those 3 guys, move down, get some more draft picks, the Islanders need to get a lot more prospects into the system. The Islanders are really in a good spot here, aren't they?
They are, but I think at the same time, what are we talking as far as an offer, and how far are you willing to move down to get the guy that you want when you have the opportunity to get the best guy available, right? Like, it's risk reward there. Yeah, maybe you see Schaefer, Misa, Hagens, and then there's probably a few other guys you could put into that group that you would consider, but how much is the drop-off from where you see Schaefer is, if he's assuming he's number 1 on your board, to where that group of forwards is? That includes Misa, that includes James Hagens, that includes probably Anton Frundell, the Swedish player, that includes Caleb Denwye from the Quebec League, that includes Porter Martone, the big power forward from Brampton. How far is that tier of separation, and how far are you willing to go down and still maybe get the guy that you want, when if you just stay where you are, you can take a franchise defenseman, and my goodness, what's the thought of 10 years from now saying, I've got Noah Dobson and Matthew Schaefer as my top defense pair, or anchoring my top 2 defense pair? That's a pretty outstanding foundation to build the rest of your team around. So, I mean, yes, obviously, whoever is going to be the ultimate decision maker for the Islanders, you take the phone call and you listen. But unless the offer is overwhelming, I think they're in a really good spot to just stay where they are, and kind of make the smart move.
If we go back a year, Adam, to when the Islanders took Cole Yzerman in the first round last year, and a lot of people feel like the Islanders got a steal in the first round there, and you look at his year that he had, in college and on the world stage as well, the Islanders got themselves a pretty good player in Cole Yzerman. How much, in your mind, or what people you're talking to, how far did he develop this year? How much closer is a Cole Yzerman to the NHL?
Well, I think the questions about Yzerman that you had a year ago are still somewhat apt today, where he needs to get bigger and stronger, and he needs to develop his game more fully. Like, the offensive side of his game, the goal scoring, is what's going to make him an NHL player. But there's more to the game than just being a guy who can race up and down the wing and score goals. When that's not happening, you need to have your B-level game. What is your B-level game if the puck's not going in the net for you? And again, like, a lot of kids at his age are still working to develop that and figure that out. That's why having him go back for at least one more season of school, maybe two more seasons of school, is probably the best route to take with Yzerman. And so you get a guy who, like, if you look at the path that maybe Kiefer Bellows took, or the path that Oliver Wahlstrom took, you could probably say, and even Simon Holmstrom, maybe those guys were brought to the NHL too soon, and it stunted their development. And a slower, more deliberate path where they play 2 and 3 years of college, or in Holmstrom's case, maybe they stay over in Sweden for an extra season, then get a season in the American League to kind of understand what professional hockey in North America is like. Then you bring them to the NHL. And maybe it's a slower road for them, and maybe you maximize that potential a little bit more. I think that's the route. If they're going to go that route with Yzerman, I think it's the smart play to get the most you can possibly get out of a guy who has a dynamic offensive skill set, but I don't think he's NHL ready at this point.
Adam, where do you stand on the draft eligible players still having junior eligibility, and if they don't make the NHL team, they have to go back until they reach a certain age, then they can go to the AHL? Because I think, and not just the Islanders, any NHL team could probably look at an example of a player who has played junior hockey, and clearly they're ready to play professional, but maybe not ready to play in the NHL just yet. And if you have that player, maybe you give a team once every 5 years the chance to take one of their underage junior players, and you put them in the AHL for a year, because sometimes these guys go from, they're not quite ready to go to the NHL, but maybe it's best for them that they're a man among boys in junior, but let's give them a shot in the AHL before they can go up to the NHL. Where do you stand on that? And do you think the NHL and junior hockey has to make an adjustment there in certain circumstances for players?
Well, there's a few levels to that, right? That rule only applies to kids that are drafted from the Canadian Hockey League, the OHL, right, the QMJHL, the WHL. They're the ones who are precluded from playing in the American League until they're 20. Anybody drafted from the U.S., colleges, Europe, they can go to the American League at age 18. So let's just make sure that's kind of clear there. Now, and I'll use Callum Ritchie as an example, the player the Islanders acquired from the Avalanche in the Brock Nelson trade. Callum Ritchie started this season in the NHL, the Colorado Avalanche. They had to make a decision. Do we want to keep him, burn a year of his contract, or we want to send him back to we determine he's not ready. Now, when he's not ready, because he was drafted from Oshawa in the Ontario League, he has to go back to junior hockey. Right. Would Callum Ritchie, as a 19-year-old, been better served having a chance to have an in-between step in the American League? I think if you ask the Islanders development people, they would probably say they would have liked to see him and the Avalanche development people as well, we would have liked to see him put his toe in the water in the American League to see how he handles that adjustment to pro hockey, versus sending him back to the Ontario League, where, he might be a little bit of a different case because he dealt with a bad shoulder injury during his draft season. So he really didn't get a healthy season. This was really a big, healthy, quote unquote, season for him in the Ontario League this year to step up and dominate and do what he did. And he had a fantastic season. would it have been better for him to have that in-between step in the American League?
Yeah.
I think there are certain guys where, it would have been good for them to have that opportunity. Unfortunately, the situation is what the situation is, and I would have to assume, and I don't have any knowledge in this, but I would have to assume that's going to be part of whatever the next collective bargaining agreement looks like because of the changes to NCAA hockey, where in the past, players from the CHL were not permitted to go play NCAA hockey. And, now they're going to have that opportunity where they can play CHL, play NCAA, maybe go back and forth a little bit to find the right fit for them. Better opportunity for these prospects.
Right.
But what does that mean for NHL clubs moving forward? So I think that's all. It's a really interesting question. And I think the general managers and the board of governors, as well as the NHL Players Association, they're still trying to wrap their head around what is the best path, what is the best option to give the players what they need as far as from a development standpoint, to give the clubs what they need as far as how do we function when it comes to the draft, when it comes to player development, and kind of assessing how we kind of view these players moving forward. It's a really interesting experiment. I don't have to make that decision. I'm kind of happy about that. But it's going to be really interesting to see where this plays out moving forward 2, 3, 4 years down the line.
And one last quick thing, the NHL draft is going to be in Los Angeles this year, but it's the first time in a long time that the teams are not going to be there. The players are going to get introduced. So the teams are going to be like in the NFL. The teams are going to be in their war rooms back at their headquarters. And there's already been some discussion about going back the way it was, where you would see the general managers on the floor making deals on the draft day. What's the latest on that? Is this going to be a one-shot deal where they do the teams back at their war rooms? You think it's going to go back to the way it was?
I think that's something that they're going to have a meeting about after we get through this year's draft in June at the LA Live Theater, at the Peacock Theater in Los Angeles. The teams will be in their war rooms back in their 32 various markets, planning whatever they want to plan as far as fan engagement and all that sort of stuff, versus each team will have a representative in Los Angeles. The players will be in Los Angeles. We'll see how it works. And I think the league is open-minded as far as, let's see how this goes. If it works, maybe we keep it. Maybe we fine-tune it. If it doesn't work, maybe we go back to the old way. But I think all of that's going to get discussed into the summer and the fall to see what kind of works best. Have that, you need to make an informed decision. Can't do it now when it's all, conjecture, what could happen, what might happen. Let's see live time, how it looks, how it feels, what the teams think of it, and then move forward as far as format.
Adam, this was an absolute blast. Thank you so much for doing this. Great information. Good luck with everything at NHL.com, and enjoy the draft, and we'll talk again real soon.
Absolutely. Anytime, Peter.
Thank you, Adam. Adam Kimmelman from NHL.com. Still lots more to do. I need a little bit of a break. We didn't take that first commercial. What are you smiling at me for?
Good interview.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. I've done this for a while. We're going to take a break. Lots more to do. When we come back, we're going to have Stump the Wiz. We're going to have our concert calendar. Who knows what other Michigas we'll have when we come back. It's all coming back with more Sports Bash right after this. Hi, I'm Peter Schwartz.
And I'm Vinny Tickets.
We want to take a moment to talk about our fantastic sponsor, the Embassy Diner.
Embassy Diner has been a beloved staple in the restaurant industry for over 50 years. And the great thing about it is when you walk through the door, you're not a customer, you are family. Every visit promises to be filled with warmth, love, and respect.
And here's an extra treat. If you mention Sports Bash during your visit, you enjoy a free dessert on the Embassy Diner.
Come on down to the Embassy Diner, where great food and great company are always on the menu.
Visit the Embassy Diner, located at 4280 Hempstead Turnpike in Bethpage. Hi, I'm Peter Schwartz.
And I'm Vinny Tickets.
We want to take a moment to talk about...
In 1982, the Marty Lyons Foundation began with a single heartfelt mission: to bring moments of joy and hope to critically ill children by granting wishes that make their dreams come true. Since that day, we have touched the lives of over 8,500 families, raising over $43 million to grant wishes that offer a beacon of light in their darkest times. These precious wishes cost an average of $6,700 each and your support is crucial to our mission. Every donation, big or small, makes a difference. And with 76 cents of every dollar going directly to supporting our families, you can rest assured your support truly changes lives. The Morning Lions Foundation operates 11 chapters in 14 states now, working tirelessly to reach as many children as we can. This dedication goes hand in hand with our commitment to transparency and accountability, earning us top ratings on Charity Navigator, Great Nonprofits, and Candid, which underscores our dedication to those we serve. The Marty Lyons Foundation grants wishes to children ages 3 to 17. And what really makes this foundation so special is our willingness to grant not only a first wish, but also consider a second wish to a child who continues to battle a life-threatening illness. We stand by these children, offering them hope and strength through the power of dreams, giving our children the courage to wish for more.
What's your purpose in life? Is your purpose in life to live in the big house and drive the nice car? No. Your purpose in this life is to make it a little bit better for those that follow and realize that we live for today to see a better tomorrow.
Visit MartyLyonsFoundation.org to learn more and get involved. In 1982, the Marty Lyons Foundation.
Welcome back to Sports Bash, presented by TicketBash.com with the Ryan Anthony Head Start Fund. Love a little Billy Joel running on ice. Of course, we had a little hockey talk last segment, so I thought, let's come back with a little running on ice. Now, you know what's interesting about this, so I'll bring Tony in really quick, because we always like to talk a little Billy Joel, and keep the song playing in the background while we talk about this. When Billy Joel closed the Coliseum in 2015.
Yeah.
My wife and I are there, a few rows back on the floor, watching the show, and he started to talk about the Were you there?
I was there.
You were
yes.
there. So do you remember? So you might remember this. He started to talk about, that's it. No more Coliseum. I mean, the Coliseum was reopening anyway, but now no more hockey. And Islander fans there, including myself, all start to boo that they're moving to Brooklyn. And then he's hearing it, and all of a sudden, impromptu, goes into a little running on ice.
Right,
on the piano, which was, I thought, I was upset that he brought it up, but then I'm like, that's cool. He did a little running on ice there on the piano, a little impromptu. But yeah, I love that song. I mean,
Me too.
There's very, very few Billy Joel songs I don't like.
Name one that you don't like.
I
don't know if I can do it.
I'm not a you're gonna kill me for this. I'm not a fan of Root Beer Rag.
Really?
That song, that comes on, I get the heebie-jeebies a little bit. I will say I respect the song, but it's very, very uncomfortable listening to Goodnight Saigon, even though I understand
because what it's about. Yeah.
Because what it's about, it's sad. It's it's like one of those things where I get it.
Yeah.
I understand why. And first, and also, it's on my favorite Billy Joel album, Nylon Curtain.
Right.
But yeah, I'm not a fan of Root Beer Rag.
Wow.
Actually, you're really going to kill me on this one. I'm not a big fan of Captain Jack.
All right. Yeah, I might have to kill you after all. Yes.
Yeah.
Captain Jack is actually a friend of mine. He just passed away almost 2 years ago. But yeah, he was a friend of mine, and
does he write about? That's the person he writes about in the song.
Yeah.
Okay.
He was kind of nutty, but he was a good guy.
Yeah. That's just look. And again, you're not going to find two bigger Billy Joel fans.
True.
Than me. Hey, listen, we agree to disagree on those kind of things.
No, I might have to kill you.
No, you're going to have to. Oh, you were giving me some information before.
I don't know if I have the correct information, but yeah.
So you were telling. So we've talked about this on the show before. There's going to be a documentary about Billy Joel coming to HBO Max.
Right.
This summer. Now I remember, and I'm trying to get the producer of the show on the program. No response yet. So we'd have to call in some favors on that. See if we can do some recognizance work. But it was supposed to be called "And So It Goes." You're telling me now that the show might have a different name.
That's what I read this morning, but you never know what you're reading on the internet. I read an article that said it's going to be called The Piano Man's Journey, but I hope I'm wrong.
Yeah.
I think that's a terrible title.
Yeah,
but
I like "And So It Goes."
Yeah, I like that better myself.
I would go for that also.
Yeah, I would prefer that. If I hopefully that information is wrong. While I'm doing the concert calendar, which if you don't mind, because there's doorbells ringing, there's commotion going on out there, people are walking left and right. Would you be an absolute mensch and close the door to the studio?
Sure.
Thank you so
I
much.
left it open to get some air in here because
I'm
it's
sorry.
been getting hot.
Wait, there's an incessant. Someone's maybe there's a food delivery at the front door that I'm not aware of.
Yeah, I'm not.
All right.
Sure
So thank you very much, Wiz. I appreciate that. Let's do the weekly concert and event calendar, and it's brought to you by our good friends at Ticketbash.com. Kendrick Lamar and SZA. I don't have their CDs at home. On May 8th and 9th at MetLife Stadium, Kendrick Lamar and SZA. May 8th and 9th at MetLife Stadium. Comedian Kevin James is at the Hackensack Meridian Health Theater in New Jersey on the 10th and 11th. And Marilyn Manson. Didn't know Marilyn Manson was still around.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, he's still around.
Marilyn Manson on the 12th at the Wellmont Theater in New Jersey. You can get tickets for all these events and more at Ticketbash.com. They offer no service fees and have the lowest prices around. All right, it is that time. Usually we do this on Thursdays, but no show tomorrow, so we're doing it today on a Wednesday. Welcome, Wiz.
Hello.
Who has already interjected a couple of times on the program. It is time to play Stump the Wiz. You ready?
I'm ready.
Yeah, I don't think you're getting this one today. DM your best sports trivia question, the Sports Bash Media social media channels. If we pick your question, you get a prize. And how about this prize? We're giving it away a little far in advance. 2 tickets for the Islanders 2025-26 home opener at UBS Arena this October. We don't even know who they're playing in the home opener, but we're going to give away 2 tickets for that, courtesy of Ticketbash.com. Jay Robertson from East Meadow writes in, sends in this question. The Islanders will have the number 1 overall pick for the 5th time in team history. Who were the 4 players that the Islanders have previously taken first overall? I might be lenient and take 3 out of 4. I have to see how I feel during the course of the 2 minutes. Tony Walker's got 2 minutes on the clock. And away we go.
Your favorite player of all time, John Tavares?
Well, he's not my favorite player of all time. In fact, he's one of my least favorite players of all time, unless he came back to the Islanders. But you are right. That is, and you were paying attention earlier in the show when I did mention that. So that's 1.
Rick DiPietro?
Rick DiPietro is number 2. You are batting 50%.
Rickety, some say, but hey, he's had a great career so far in radio.
Yeah.
Hey, listen. Injuries happen.
I would still like to see him part of the Islanders broadcast team, but I digress. Go right ahead.
Hey,
2 more
listen.
to go.
Dennis Potvin?
Dennis Potvin is number 3. You've got 3 out of 4. Wow. And this is the hardest one. He's not going to get the last one.
I agree.
It's going to be someone I don't know, right?
It's probably somebody you don't know. I actually shocked you got 3 out of 4 so far.
I knew DiPietro and I knew Potvin.
And you were paying attention earlier in the show when I said John Tavares.
No, I just knew it was John Tavares.
Okay.
We have a minute.
A minute to go. So you got a minute to come up with this name.
It's not someone I know. Do the Islanders fans know him?
Oh, yeah. If you're a diehard Islanders fan, it's the first ever draft pick in team history.
Oh, is he the guy that is the radio announcer?
No, he's not.
I know he's probably not someone that I know of really that much.
You probably don't.
1972.
1972 is the right year, but you don't get credit for just the year. You have to give me the name.
40 seconds.
40 seconds to go.
I'm
not giving you a hint.
No need to.
Because I want Jay Robertson to go to the opener.
Well, you just set it away.
No, I didn't give it away. Jay Robertson is the person who sent in the question.
I know. You just told me what you want.
What's that?
You told me what you want.
20 seconds.
That's it.
I'm in a giddy Islander mood this week. You have to understand that.
I get it. I'm not really sure. I feel like it's someone that probably had more time either with the Islanders or had most of his time with another team.
5 seconds.
5 seconds to go. I don't think this is looking good for you, Wiz. He waves the white towel, and we've hit 0. The correct answer, Billy Harris, the first draft pick in Islanders history in 1972. Ironically, was traded away, never got to hoist the Stanley Cup as a New York Islander.
That's why
he started winning Stanley Cups. That's why you would not have known him.
Right.
So, but a very good Islander nonetheless, Billy Harris. Thank you very much for playing. And now, I forgot this last week until, remember Tony last week with the octopus arms was going like this, right? This week in sports history.
Well, this week in 1994, something historic happened for the NBA that happened for the first time ever. It was when an 8 seed defeated a 1 seed. That was the Denver Nuggets defeated the Seattle Supersonics. Hopefully they come back. And that was in a 5-game series. That was back when the first round was a best of 5 as opposed to a best of 7. The only other time that happened afterwards was when the Knicks beat the Heat. And in terms of in the best of 6 era, a best of 7 era, it happened only 5 other times when the Warriors.
The Knicks not only beat the Heat, they went to the NBA Finals.
Yes, that's true. The only other team that could say that is beating the 1 seed as an 8 seed and in the round of 16 and the going was the Heat a couple of years ago, where they lost the Nuggets. But the other ones were the Warriors, who beat the Mavericks. You had the Grizzlies, who beat the Spurs, and you had the Sixers that beat the Bulls. Now, granted, that one was because of Derrick Rose's injury, but they still made it to the second round. All those teams made it to the second round, with the exception of the Knicks in '99 and the Heat in 2023.
I'm in a good mood this week because the Knicks beat the Celtics Monday night. The Islanders got the first pick. I'm very happy. So I'm going to give you a little extra airtime on the show. And this is something you brought up before the show started. The Utah Hockey Club, a team that relocated to Utah. They went a year without a real nickname. But we now found out today what their name will be going forward. Why don't you tell everybody what that name will be?
Utah Mammoth.
I like it. I saw the logo earlier today, and then you showed it to me and Tony, and we're taking a look at that logo on the screen right now. I think they did a good job with this. I mean, the other options, I guess, was Yeti.
Well, no, they couldn't use Yeti.
They weren't allowed, but that was bandied around.
Very early on, they knew that was a big request, but they couldn't do it because of the trademark with the coolers. The other two options were either keeping Hockey Club, which I think would have been the worst addition they could have made.
No, that would have been.
And the last one would have been Outlaws. They were going to do Wasatch, which is like named after the mountain range, but they got rid of that and replaced it with Outlaws because outside of that area, literally no one knows what the Wasatch is.
Are they going to keep the same colors, right?
Yeah, same color scheme, same black and like light blue. It works for Mammoth.
I bet you'll start seeing the Utah Hockey Club jerseys on racks at Marshalls and TJ Maxx very soon.
Depends on what you mean by that, because the road jersey is the same. The only difference is the home black jersey, which is replaced instead of Utah. They could probably still have that as an alternate potentially. I mean, there's no guarantee of what they're going to do with that. I personally think Mammoth is the best choice out of those three because think of also just the area itself. Yeah. There's tons of Mammoth, skeletons that are there.
Have you ever been to Salt Lake City before?
I've never left the Eastern Time Zone.
I did a Dragons game in Salt Lake in Utah. A very, very nice city.
Yeah,
very, very
a lot. They have a lot of woolly mammoth skeletons. Also, they were looking to try to bring that back. They had like the woolly mouse and like the dire wolf thing they had.
So how do you bring back a species?
Well, it wouldn't be exactly the same because
like what two things would have to mate in order to bring the mammoth back?
It's a lot of things.
Tony, you want to jump in on this?
They use like an Indian elephant and also like certain DNA from there.
Yeah,
there's a lot of factors. They're not really bringing it back necessarily. It's going to be a bit different.
Yeah,
but hey, listen,
AI will be involved in this, I would think, right?
Yeah, it's more science if I'm not mistaken. Than actually mating, but I don't think it's entirely true. Yeah, there's some.
Yeah, like the dire wolf thing they say, like it's obviously not the same, but at the same time,
I'm fascinated by this.
But I'll say this: I think having this name is really, really important from that aspect alone. It's the same reason why I think back in the '90s when Florida went with the Panthers, that's a really important name because it really helps. It leads to the Florida Panthers. We got to save this. I think in this case, it's very good to give homage to the prehistoric days.
I like that word.
The prehistoric days. I think it does everything.
Yeah, no.
Now, I would have been okay with the name Outlaw, but outside of like Joseph Smith and the Mormons, like I don't really think of Utah as a place where outlaws.
That sounds like a band, Joseph Smith and the Mormons. Yes, it does. They'll be playing at Governor's Comedy Club next week.
I think if they didn't go with Golden Knights, I think that Outlaws would have been a good name with the Golden Knights, but that was also the name of the XFL team. Yeah. Though at that time, I would have wanted that to be called the Scorpions. But hey, it is what it is. Maybe if the NBA ever gets a team there, they can call them the Scorpions. I would love that.
Well done. Well done. It is time now for the Sports Bash Media poll question of the day. We post a new poll question every Tuesday and Thursday on the Sports Bash Media X/Twitter page. This is for Islander fans. Would you take former captain John Tavares back if the opportunity presented? Now, he's coming up to the end of his contract with Toronto. It's amazing how fast that time flew since he left. And he's been stripped of his captaincy, so he's not the captain anymore. So if he was to become an unrestricted free agent and the Islanders could fit him in the cap, maybe the new GM wants to bring him back, would you take him back? We'll go around the room. Let me start with Tony this time. Tony, would you take the former captain back on the Islanders?
I would not.
You would not. Reason?
It's just one of those you can't go home again. I just don't think it'll be the same, and I think it's going to wear
Too
him
much
down.
pain from the departure.
Correct. For us and for him.
Yes, absolutely. So I will tell you that, first let me ask Wiz, would you take him back if you were an Islanders fan? Or you are an Islanders fan?
No,
you're not.
No, I will say this. I think that I understand why a lot of fans were upset with him, justifiably so. But, you got to throw Warner under the bridge at some point.
Yeah.
This is a guy still spent amazing years with the Islanders. He still is someone that, love him or hate him, is one of the best people to put in that jersey. I know people have animosity towards him. I get it. But listen, that happens. I mean, you look at what the Timberwolves, what's going on with them. They still, I know it's basketball, but it's different. There's beef with Kevin Garnett and the owner, and it's why his jersey's not retired. Do you really want to have that bad blood between the player and the team? Do you really want to have that? I understand.
Well, they've actually now retired 91 for Butch Gordon.
Yeah, but you
I know what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, well,
let me just.
I would say yes, but you need to also know if he's comfortable with it too, because even if he's brought back in and he decides to, the people outside the ice and the stands might not treat him really respectfully. So what's good for him? What's good for his family? Yeah. I'm okay with it.
I would be curious to see if he would want to come back. And if you're asking me, and listen, as people know, there's no bigger Islander fan on the planet than myself. Maybe a few people might take umbrage with that. I would actually entertain him coming back. If you brought him back at a very reasonable price, if he could help you win, he's still got gas left in the tank. And you can make it. Listen, obviously he's not getting an $8 million or $9 million a year contract, but if you could make that work, I would kind of say, let bygones be bygones and bring him back if you feel he can help you win. I don't know if other Islander fans would feel the same way, but I would welcome him coming back. I will say this: his departure was as painful as anything I've ever seen, not just from my perspective, but my younger son Jared. I remember I was working at the Fan that morning. It was NHL free agency day. The night before, he had a deadline to re-sign with the Islanders at an extra year and more money, and he didn't do it. And you figure, okay, he's gone. He's definitely going to leave. And he did the next day, but we waited and waited all morning for him to make a decision, and we didn't get a decision, and people are starting to think, well, maybe he's having second thoughts. Maybe he'll just take the one less year with the Islanders. And I'm like, no, he's going to leave. Nothing happens at 12 o'clock. I leave WFAN. I take the subway to Penn Station. I get on the train. As the train is pulling out of Penn Station, I look at my phone, and I have an Islander fan friend of mine say to me, how could he do this to us? And I'm like, oh, I guess he left. And then I'm starting to look at the information, and I'm like, sure enough, he leaves. And I'm like, I'm going to get a phone call from home. I can tell I'm going to get a phone call from home, because this is what happens when I'm at work and a sports thing happens, and especially when it's a sad one, because Bradley had to call me a couple of times after the Islanders lost Game 7, elimination playoff games, all upset. This time it was Jared's turn. The phone rings. I see it's home. I answer the phone. It's my wife. We have a problem here. What's the problem? I knew what the problem was. Puts me on the phone with a crying Jared, who was all of... So when was this? This was 2000 and...
It was the mid 2010. It was the mid 2010s.
Right. So we knew that UBS Arena was coming back. Yeah. So it was like 2016, 17, somewhere around there. Jared is all of 5 or 6 years old at the time. I forget what year he wound up leaving the Islanders, and he was not happy. And he went and put all of his Tavares stuff. He had little stuffed animals and put them away. He goes, burn it, get rid of it. We still have it in the house.
Yeah, you should not. You should not burn that stuff. All you're doing is just wasting
that's
money.
why his departure was very, very painful. But again, if I'm thinking about it, if he still has a little bit left in the tank and you can get him at the right price, I would bring him back. And there you go. And that'll do it for this edition of Sports Bash on this special Wednesday edition. Thanks to my guests, Anthony Donahue and Adam Killman. Thanks to Wiz, Vinny Laspanuso for Stump the Wiz. and This Week in Sports History. Thanks to Tony Walker and everyone here at Governor's Comedy Club. No shows at all here on the podcast channel tomorrow at all?
That's correct. Tomorrow and Friday.
Tomorrow and Friday. Dark 2 days. Here.
Well, yeah, basically until Monday.
Until Monday. Okay, okay. Well, there you go. So we weren't the only ones singled out that we couldn't come in tomorrow. Sports Bash is presented by TicketBash.com and the Ryan Anthony Head Start Fund. Sports Bash is sponsored by the Embassy Diner in Bethpage and by the Marty Lyons Foundation. For our entire crew, I'm Peter Schwartz saying thank you for watching. Sports Bash returns Tuesday at 1 o'clock. I know it's a little early, but have a great weekend. And let's go Knicks tonight!